from a visual inspection, you won't find any problems with this assembly, and it may look like a perfect one with all the simple mechanisms working properly. So this drawer is opening, so are these lids, and everything else is just working perfectly. But before submitting your final drawing, you should check your assemblies, and one of the best ways to check it is interference detection. So you can start with interference detection, and then you can also analyze it using several other methods. In this video, we'll see how interference detection works. So we have this assembly, and to check interferences between different components, here I'll go to Evaluate tab and I'll click on Interference Detection. Now the full assembly is selected, and once it is selected, click on Calculate, and now it will just calculate all the interferences in this assembly and it will highlight it. Now before we see the interferences, let's go to this last panel here in non-interfering components panel. Here you can see some visual styles available for us, and this will basically show the visual style of components which are not interfering. You can change it to wireframe for all the components, hidden where none of the components will show except for the interfering one, transparent, which looks like this, and the current visual style, which is the worst in this case as you won't be able to see what's going on inside. So in this case, I'll just make sure that transparent is selected so that every single component is visible. Now, after that, let's go to this results panel. Now in the results panel, we have lots and lots of interferences here. And not only that, you can see the volume as well of interfering components. If you want to see where the interference is, then select it and it will highlight it like this. For example, this interference one is right here, and it's between this screw and this channel. That's this red region. If you want to see the mating components, you can just expand this and see the components which are actually creating this interference. And these components are mid channel and the drawer screw. There we are. And this is the volume of interference. In a similar way, you can select other components and the component will highlight, for example, 3 and so on. So it looks like most of these interferences are between this mid channel and the drawer screw on this side, and the same thing is happening on that side as well. So it's the mid channel and the drawer screw, actually that's here. So these interferences as well as these interferences are between mid channel and the drawer screw. So we'll fix either the mid channel or the drawer screw to get rid of this problem. Now the next interference here is this interference 7, which looks like the interference between this fastener and this wooden cabinet. Now if you want to once again check it, expand it, and yes, it is between the cabinet and the hinge screw. Now this is a kind of interference which we can ignore because we expect this screw to merge inside the cabinet. So even if it's going inside, it's totally fine because, well, we will obviously drill it inside the wooden cabinet. So these are some of the interferences that can be ignored. So let's just ignore it directly. But before we do that, let's organize it into one single folder. And organizing these kind of fasteners is very easy in SolidWorks. If you have used fasteners in your assembly, then you can simply go to this options panel and check this option, create fasteners folder. When you do that, SolidWorks will just create a fastener folder and it will add all the fasteners inside that folder. So here, as you can see, we have all these fasteners added right inside this. Now, as you know, we just want to ignore these fasteners. So you can just select some of these or maybe all of these and then select ignore. And now SolidWorks won't show interferences between those ignored components. We still have these two, which you can see here. So you have this interference and this one, which I'll leave for now. Also, I'll just collapse this fastener folder. Now, if you want to show the ignored interferences, then you can check this box. And now even the ignored interferences will show up like this. So it's grayed out, but it will show up when you select, it will highlight. So uncheck this and the ignored one will once again hide, or you can also select unignore to simply unignore all the ignored interferences. So in this case, I'll simply just go to this fasteners. I'll go to show ignored interferences and I'll just select this and click on unignore. Now they're back in the result and it will show up. All right, now if you want to exclude some components from this interference calculation, then you can do that right here. exclude components. Now check this option and now you can select a component which you want to exclude. For example, in this case, I want to exclude this entire cabinet. So I'll just select this complete cabinet from our calculation and this will just ignore it. Not only that, here the complete cabinet is hidden because we have selected hide excluded component from view option. You can uncheck this if you want to bring it back. If you check it, the excluded component won't show up. But in this case, we want to keep everything, so I'll just uncheck this exclude components. Now we also have some options here. Let's just check these options. We have first option here, which is treat coincidence as interference. Now if you check this option and calculate the interference, then the list will grow even bigger. Now it will not only show you the interfering components, but also components that are even touching one another. So these are the components with this volume, interfering volume. But if you expand this and if you go down this list, you'll find this coincident interference. So in this case, there is no mating volume, but still it will show up in this list because right now it is showing the coincident interferences as well. Well, I'll just uncheck this and also I'll uncheck show ignored interferences. We of course have a fasteners folder. If you want to keep that, check it, or you can uncheck it. Also, we have a checkbox here called make interfering parts transparent. Now this is important if you want to directly see the components which are interfering. For example, here if you select any interfering component, it will automatically turn transparent, but in this case everything is transparent, so it's not very visible. So let's just change the visual style to maybe wireframe, and now you can see it clearly. So everything is wireframe except our interfering components. So if you select something else, only the interfering components will show up as transparent, and this will give you a really great idea of what is actually interfering. Here you can clearly see that we have this hinge pin as well as this door panel, and these two are interfering right about here. So that's a visual way of looking at the interfering components. In this case, I'll just, well, leave this one, make interfering parts transparent, but here I'll make everything else transparent too. Also, you can ignore the hidden bodies or components. If you have hidden bodies and components in your drawing and you don't want to include it in interference detection calculation, then you can check this one. But we do want to include the hidden components as well. So I'll just uncheck this and I'll click on calculate so that hidden components are also included in the calculation. And finally, we have some smaller options like treat subassemblies as component, include multi-body part interferences, and create matching cosmetic threads folder, which you can check based on your requirement. So if you have subassemblies, which is just collection of several different components included inside this assembly, then you can check this one to treat it as one single component. If you have multi-body part, you can just include it for interference calculation. And if you want to create another folder for matching cosmetic threads, then you can check this one. So matching cosmetic threads will be separated into folder. Now that you know how interference detection works, in the next video, we'll learn how to use this data to fix our assembly. But before that, let's just click OK to save this interference.